Hi, I'm Bill Skelley. I welcome you to the Bill Skelley School of Golf video, live and in color from the Miami Lakes Inn Athletic Club and Golf Resort in Miami Lakes, Florida. You have acquired this tape with the sole purpose of improving your golf swing mechanics. We can do this together. This tape, if you follow it meticulously, will be an open sesame to your very best golf. I have designed this tape so that you at first will be rather mechanical. I'm going to give you highly technical positions and alignments to follow. Step by step, we'll move together from the address position through the backstroke and top, all the way through impact and the finish. I will strongly advise that you spend some time in front of a mirror. There will be many opportunities during this video that you can reflect upon what I'm asking you in front of your own mirror at home. Watch me, listen, and look. If you follow me as closely as you can, you will improve your golf swing daily. You and I can build this golf swing together only if you understand me 100%. And I'm going to be as clear as I can from grip through the posture, through the backswing, downswing, and to the finish. I know that we can build the golf swing the way you want to build it. Let's begin now. You have heard many times that the grip is fundamental to a good golf swing. You should also know that the golf swing that you currently have is a derivative of your grip. And the golf swing that you will develop will be a derivative of a new grip. I find that 85% of my students do change their grips, so I'm assuming that you probably will. I'd like to begin with the basic concept that the left hand and wrist controls the club face. Please notice that as I turn my left hand to the left, the club face follows. To the right, the club face follows. Wherever we find the left wrist, we will find the face. To align the club face and the left wrist into the same plane, it would be ideal that you put the club in your right hand initially and place your left hand in a position where it is vertical to the ground. This hand is vertical to the ground. This would be horizontal. This, of course, would be diagonal. So initially, your left wrist is vertical to the ground, and in addition, your left wrist, when you put the club in your hand, is flat. This is a flat left wrist versus a left wrist which would be either bent or arched. Never in golf will you bend or arch your left wrist at any time in the actual swing. So the left wrist is vertical to the ground, not turned or rolled that way. And your left wrist is flat versus bent or arched. Finally, you should know that the left wrist is level. It is level versus cocked or uncocked. This is a level left wrist. Simply put, this is a karate chop position, flat, level, and vertical. Next, you will put the golf club in your left hand by holding the left hand flat, level, and vertical, and pulling the forefinger of your left hand back, as I've done here. With the toe of your club pointing straight up into the air, you will lay the club shaft at an angle to your left arm and hand of between 30 and 40 degrees, placing the grip part of the shaft on the second joint of the left forefinger, as I've done here. So, the club is resting on the second joint, and the toe of the club is pointing skyward versus turned that way or that way. Then you will place the remaining part of the grip underneath the pad or the meaty part of the left hand. I would do this without the use of the other three fingers. If you have not placed the club shaft underneath the bottom pad of your left hand, then your golf club will then slip out of your hand. So by not using these three fingers, you will be able to determine whether or not you've placed the shaft underneath this meaty part of the hand. At this point in the golf swing, my left wrist will appear bent or cupped for the first time, the toe of the club still pointing skyward. I will then grip with the remaining three fingers of the left hand as I flatten this wrist out as I initially had done. Now the left wrist should be in its original three conditions. It is flat, level, and vertical to the ground. A karate chop position. The club still at its 30 to 40 degree angle. To finalize the gripping process, we will simply take the thumb of the left hand and ultimately place it on the top right side of the club shaft. This would be top center, and this would be top right. That is every detail that you will ever need on the left-hand grip. Now let's take a look at the right hand. The right hand is a finger grip. You need to know two basic things about the right hand before placing it on the golf club. The right hand and wrist initially is placed in a position where it is level, not cocked, not uncocked, perfectly level. And the right hand is in a position where it is bent. If you'll just bend your hand back to the right like that, that is the ultimate right hand position. Level, not cocked nor uncocked, and slightly bent. Now, if you'll continue where you left off with your club at an angle to your left arm and shaft of 30 to 40 degrees, take your level right hand, which is slightly bent back, and place the club shaft in the fingers of the right hand, as I've done here. There are several places in the fingers you could place the shaft. You could place it in the tips of the fingers, in the middle of the fingers, or at the base of the fingers. You want to place the shaft toward the middle of the fingers. As you find this location, the shaft should slide easily up and down in your hand. Bring your hand down until it touches your left hand. All fingers on the shaft until they touch flush with the left hand. Your right thumb is off of the club shaft currently. Do the following things with your right baby finger. Either overlap it, as I've done here, between the first two fingers of the left hand, or interlock it between the first two fingers, or I'd like for you to do neither. Place the right forefinger on the shaft, as I've done here, as if you'd be gripping a baseball bat. If your hands are extremely small, you need the baseball grip. If you use a small glove or a cadet glove, consider it carefully. I strongly recommend it. Overlap or interlock is your choice. I prefer the overlap, but it is not mechanically superior. I think it's an easier grip to put on the club. The next area of concern is the right forefinger. I would like for you to notice that the right forefinger is not touching the second finger of the right hand. The first three fingers of the right hand are attached to one another, and they are resting flush with the left hand, but this finger is aloof. I'm going to take the right forefinger and leave it separate for now, and as I do so, I want you to focus on the palm of my right hand. I'm going to pull the palm of the right hand away from the shaft and identify my lifeline. I will take the lifeline and I will fold the lifeline of the right hand over the thumb of the left hand, covering the entire thumb unit so that the thumb of the left hand is resting in the lifeline. You might say the thumb and the lifeline are representing two parallel lines. They become one unit working together. As I do this, if you'll focus back on the right forefinger, notice it's still not attached to the rest of the fingers. As I will slowly place my right thumb on the shaft, I will place the thumb on the top left side of the shaft, and the right forefinger will appear like so. Because the right forefinger was not attached, it appears to be resting higher on the club shaft than the other fingers. From another angle, please notice that the knuckle of the right hand appears to be resting on the top right side of the shaft, and it is protruding from the rest of the fingers. Now I will pull the right finger against the other fingers, and I'd like for you to see what that looks like. Now the right forefinger knuckle is under the shaft, and that is a true negative for the game. If the right forefinger is too close to the other fingers, then once you finalize the grip, the knuckle of the right forefinger will rest too low on the club shaft. Please notice that you do not want the knuckle in this position. Watch as the knuckle creeps higher on the club shaft as it is doing here, and that's your final position. In order to check if the right and left hand are proper on the club shaft, there is one simple test which will tell it all. If you will take the handle of your golf club and place the shaft 90 degrees to your body with the handle pointing directly through your sternum, with both elbows slightly out, you will receive immediate verification whether your hands are properly placed on the club. There are two V's formed between the right forefinger and thumb and the left forefinger and thumb. In this position, your left wrist is cupped or bent, and your V's will show the following. Your right hand V is pointing just to the right of your chin. Your left hand V is pointing just to the left of your chin. If they are not facing in those respective directions, then alter your hand position until they are. Your knuckle of your right forefinger appears on the top right side of the shaft if this V is properly placed. Otherwise, please change immediately and remain in this position until the day you die. Next, we should look at the hand pressure, grip pressure, if you will. The primary pressure in the left hand will be against the bottom three fingers of the left hand here. There is zero pressure against the shaft via the left thumb and forefinger. The only pressure in the right hand is the two middle fingers of the right hand, excluding the index finger and baby finger here and here. The two middle fingers are gripping with equal pressure to the last three fingers of the left hand. Neither thumb applies any pressure at all. The right forefinger is gently placed on the shaft with the slightest of pressure, if any, and all of the pressure amounts to very little pressure. I would not hold a golf club any tighter than holding a tube of toothpaste. I would hold it so very softly, and I would determine if I'm holding it too softly by if the club shaft falls out of your hands, then it's too soft. If it doesn't, but it's wobbling slightly, then it's too soft. Hold your golf club only so tight that it doesn't wobble as you take the club away. If you do feel the club falling out of your left hand on the takeaway, then it is, of course, too light. Need I say that the vast majority of all the golfers who play are gripping the club entirely too tight, and they've killed any opportunity that they will ever have to be fluid in their backswing. Grip pressure is so very important. Hold the club as lightly as you can without letting it wobble in your hands. The next element of the golf swing, which we're going to look at as part of our pre-shot routine, is that of posture. It is imperative that you posture your body in a way that you can turn your body with a semi-motionless head, if not a totally motionless head. And in order to do so, you must understand certain fundamentals of the bending process. Your body can bend from one of four locations. You can either bend your body from the neck, like so. You could bend your body from the waist, which would curve your spine, which you'll never want to do. You could bend your body from the hip joint, which you will want to do. And you could bend from the knees. You will only bend from the neck, the hip joint, and the knees. I recommend that you begin by standing tall, placing your weight either slightly behind the middle of your feet, favoring the heels, or slightly forward toward the balls of the feet. This is your option. Then place your hands at your hip joint and simply push your rear end out and up. After you have completed this process, you will check to see that the distance from the outside of your feet, from outside of the right foot to outside of the left foot, is certainly no wider than shoulder width apart. In addition, I would like for you to make doubly sure that your body weight is such that you're sensing a heaviness in the buttocks area here and in your thighs. You should feel like your upper body is being supported in your thighs. Clearly, you should give the appearance of having your rear end pushed out and lifted up, as if you're standing on stilts, as opposed to tucking your tail feathers in. The feeling of the good player is the feeling of being pushed up out of the ground. This is the feeling prior to the knee flex. After you're pushed up out of the ground and bent from the hip joint, your arms will dangle like ropes. There is no tension in the upper half of the body, and you will simply curve your upper half of your spine slightly as you let your shoulders merely drop. The arms are dangling like ropes. They are tension-free. The left arm is extended. The right arm is clearly bent. It is bent enough to where the right shoulder itself looks lower than the left shoulder by a couple of inches. You will also need to check time and time again that as you bend over, you're bending straight over with the head in the middle of your body as opposed to laying your head off to the right side or the left side of your body. Once you've done your bending straight over, and once you've dropped your right arm and shoulder down slightly, the dropping itself will give you the appearance of listing slightly to the right. But this is the bottom line. If you've postured properly, you will feel as if your body weight is in your buttocks area and in your thighs. You will feel tension in your lower back. You will feel very stretched up in your hip area, and your arms will feel as if they're hanging like ropes. Our final adjustments are the bending of the neck and the knees. I'll begin with the neck. When you lower your neck, you're lowering your chin and your eyes. Your eyes themselves are lowered to the extent that they're looking directly at the ball. In other words, the focus of the eyes is in the direction of the ball. I've taken the chin, which is up, and I've dropped it, like so. Notice the difference between a chin that is up and off the chest, like this, versus a chin that is against the chest, like this. Traditionally, the high handicapper will bury his chin into his body like this, and the low handicapper will feel like his chin is up and off of his chest. After this is completed and you're looking directly at your golf ball, simply lower your knees. Now I'd like to show you a procedure which will help you determine the amount of knee bend recommended for each golfer. It will be different for each golfer depending on many factors. I'm going to begin now with a golf club and a ball. Your golf ball is placed somewhere in front of your body, depending on the club that you've chosen. With a pitching wedge, you'll play the golf ball farther back in your stance than with the driver. For now, we're going to look, though, at how far you are to stand from the golf ball and how much knee flex is required during this process. We're going to repeat the posturing process, and as we do so, we're just simply going to add a golf club. I want you to watch what I'm doing with my left arm and club shaft, and I will do everything else the same. I've taken the golf ball and I've placed it in front of my body, roughly in the position where I think it belongs, as far as the distance from my body. In order to determine the distance from the ball, we will begin by holding our left wrist in the flat, level, and vertical position which we discussed in the grip. We will grip the club with our 30 to 40 degree angle. The left arm is at that angle to the club shaft from here to here. The left arm is clearly extended away from the left shoulder. I'm standing erectly as we did before, and I'm going to bend now from the hip joint. As I do so, I will bring the left arm against the body. It's touching the body here. It touches the body, the left arm is still extended, and I'm taking the 30 to 40 degree angle between the left arm and shaft, and I'm now lowering it. I'm lowering it as I'm now creating a bend at the hip joint. My legs are locked. I'll bend as far as I can until my lower body pulls. Please notice that the golf club will not reach the ground. Please also notice that the club head is nowhere near the ball. It is 5 inches outside the ball. I will now move back. I'm backing up to where the club head is approximately over the golf ball, which it is now. I am simply now going to lower the club head through the bending of the knees. The knees are now starting to bend, and I will keep the original structure of my spine. The spine is straight and the head is clearly off of the chest. I'm now going to lower my chin so that my eyes focus directly at the golf ball, and I have completed the posturing process. Finally, from the back view, I would like for you to notice where the right arm is positioned as we finalize the posturing process. I will again take the left arm and shaft out of line, 30 to 40 degrees. I'm going to maintain this 30 to 40 degree relationship as I lower it to the ball. This time I am too far from the ball. I will move forward. The club head is directly over the ball. My lower back has been pulled into a semi-taut position. Notice that I'm going to take the right arm and lower it to the golf club as opposed to reaching over and grabbing it like so. The right arm should visibly be bent from the behind view. The right arm should be closer to the body than the left arm. If you're looking at the left and right elbow, the right elbow is slightly closer to the body than the left elbow. If there's anything imperative in golf, it's learning how to posture your body. Study this section incessantly until you learn it. Look at the spine. Look at the bend in the body. Look at the weight distribution. Look at the arm positions, and make sure you understand it. Then do it time and time again. I'm certain this will help you as long as you fully understand each principle of this process. Next, we're going to look at the position of the golf ball from the front to the back of the stance. Most golfers, as you are well aware, will attempt to play their golf ball off their left heel, and for very good reason. They've been told to. The left heel is not relevant in positioning a golf ball. What is relevant is the upper half of your body. You should know that for every golf shot that you hit, impact is basically the same as far as one relationship. At impact, your left arm and your club shaft will form a straight line. This line is formed earlier in the downswing with short clubs than it is with long clubs. The longer the club, the later the left arm and shaft will get into a straight line for impact. Here is a short golf club. Notice that the left arm and club shaft are not in a straight line at the top of the swing, and notice that they are in a straight line here. For this club, this would be the ideal impact position. If the club is lengthened, like this club here, then the arm and shaft will not get into a straight line until further forward in the downswing. The position of the golf ball is always dictated by where the shaft gets in line. With the wedge, the arm and shaft will get in line at this position here. Your golf ball with the wedge will be played directly off of your sternum. With a driver, your left arm and shaft will ideally get into a straight line up in here. This is just inside the left shoulder where your arm attaches to your body. Your 5-iron is positioned halfway in between the wedge and the driver, which will be right in here. Wedge, 5, driver. You will never play your golf ball forward of this point here. We call this point the low point. Your club head is moving in a circular motion. It is in orbit, and it's moving around this point here. The club head orbits up, 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 down, 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 and then it reaches a low point. That's where your arm hangs. Then the club head moves up, 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 up. Now, you will strike the ball always prior to the low point. With the wedge, the golf ball is directly in front of your sternum. Up, 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 down, 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 impact. Then the club head will continue to descend into the ground, and it will come up approximately at this point, the low point. With the 5-iron, the ball is moved forward halfway in between here and here. The same principle applies. Up, 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 down, down, down. Hands ahead of club head, thus the arm and shaft are now in a straight line. Impact. If the club head has passed your hands prior to impact, it doesn't matter where you position the ball. 98% of all golf shots are struck here, with the club head already ahead of the hands. That's the unsolid golf shot. The solid shot will always show this characteristic, the hands ahead of the club head, and if the hands are ahead, then once again the ball positions are wedge here, 5-iron here, and driver here. If you will follow these positions time and time again, and if you will eliminate the left heel as your reference point, you will play better golf tomorrow. The golf ball responds to laws of physics and geometry, not to theory, not to something vague. Play your ball in these positions. Despite the immediate flight of the ball, continue to do it until you improve. I know you will. Let's continue on.
Now we are going to inspect the alignment process. The process of walking into your golf ball, of placing your club face, of aligning your feet, of aligning your knees, of aligning your hips, aligning your shoulders, and ultimately your arms. One error in the alignment process will make your ball fly errantly. Your eyes are the conductor. They tell you where the target line is, beginning from behind the ball. You pick a spot, an intermediate spot between the ball and the target. You watch the spot as you walk in. You walk in wide, as then you step into the golf ball, right foot first, monitoring the target line as the right hand places the club face perpendicular to the target line, as your eyes swivel back and forth, checking and rechecking as your left foot is pulled in. The line of your toes is parallel to the line from the ball through the intermediate target to the target. You continue to check as you align the knees, the hips, the shoulders, and the arms. Once you feel comfortable, you might waggle the club by simply picking the club up with your wrists, patting your feet, and then pulling the trigger. If the golf ball flies where you aim it, you can assume you've aligned properly. In this swing, I'm aligned to the right, and the golf ball goes straight. I have been fooled. I felt as if I was aligned properly, but I actually pulled the ball left. This will catch up with me on a later hole. As long as you're hitting straight, assume it's correct. I'm walking in. Again, I'm checking the spot, the intermediate target, the right foot, perpendicular to the target line, the face aligned right down the line. Now watch the left foot easing its way in, so that the line of the toes is now parallel to the target line. This alignment is superior. The knees, the hips, the shoulders, all parallel. You must continue to check the alignment process. If you don't, you will get lost. Please watch the footwork, how the right foot is angled perpendicular to the target line. The left foot is back. From an open stance, the left foot is edging its way in, gradually moving forward until the feet are parallel to the line. Then the left foot is adjusted outward. Checking your ball position as we discussed earlier. Waggling the club finally to relax your hands and pull the trigger. Please watch the process by which we look at the target. Notice time and time again how we swivel at the neck, the right eye, clearly below the left eye as I turn the chin, not turning the entire face to the target, but looking at the target just as we would in the actual swing. Checking finally that all lines are parallel. Once we're convinced that everything is correct, we then pull the trigger. This golfer is now aligning his club face directly into the right woods. Accordingly, his body is parallel, being aligned also to the right woods. If you play with this golfer, please increase the bet. Watch him again. He's walked past the ball. The right foot is totally out of position. It should have been placed where it needs to be in the actual swing, and he's backing away. It's called the lost soul syndrome. Finally, we'll walk in the correct way, placing the right foot perpendicular to the target line. This is crucial. The face is placed square to the target line. This is crucial. Now, the left foot, which is back, must move forward into a position so that the line of your toes is in fact parallel. You should also check your knees, your hips, and shoulders so that all body parts are parallel. The right arm is slightly closer to the body than the left arm. You never stop monitoring the target line. Please, practice this procedure. Learn to align.
I'm going to discuss three aspects of the backswing, beginning with the body, followed by the arms, and then ultimately the hands. I'm going to be extremely detailed at first. I'm going to show you more detail than you could ever need, and then we're going to whittle that back down to some very basic components. First, let's start by observing the shoulders. I'd like to begin today by showing you two different shoulder motions so that you can determine which shoulder action you're currently using. The shoulders can turn one of two basic ways. They can either turn vertically or they can turn horizontally. It is the horizontal turn that we're looking for, and the best way to convey this feeling into your muscles is to begin by standing perfectly straight. I'd like for you to stand as erect as I am and then create a substantial knee bend as I've done here. I'm going to ask you now to bend 0 from the hip joint. You're standing perfectly erect in your upper body, and notice that your shoulders are perfectly level. I then would like for you to take your shoulders and simply turn them, keeping them perfectly level. If you're confused about the feeling, look into a mirror and do it time and time again. This is a level shoulder turn, and this is what we would call a tilt, or a dropping of the left shoulder. Now, 65 to 75% of all golfers will initiate their golf swing with the feeling of the left shoulder working down. It is wrong, and it is the very factor that makes them a high handicapper. This is body rotation. This is body tilt. Please understand the difference. You will be less confused if you will do this standing perfectly erect with a deep knee flex for now. Continue to rotate over and over and over. Now, to identify the feeling of the top of the golf swing, I'd like for you to go to the same address position with the deep knee squat momentarily. This is not your true address position, and your body is standing very erect still. Now I'd like for you to take your weight of your body with your feet really close together and put your body weight on your right heel and hip bone, which is where it will be supported at the top of the swing. Your left knee has been just slightly bent to release weight off of the front leg. Then I would like for you to take your shoulders and turn them perfectly level without any head movement, keeping your weight on your right hip bone. You're making no attempt to move your hips. In fact, you're restricting them. Turn your shoulders as far to the right as you can until the whole mid-body feels completely wound up, and stop until you can turn no farther. You have not moved your hips now. You're practicing a level shoulder turn. Hold the position, and you've now identified exactly what great players feel at the top of their backswing. The feeling is the feeling of being wound. You have just turned your upper half of your body right against the lower body. Notice the difference between this look and the look of being over the left leg. If you move over your left leg, you will get a completely different feeling in your body. You will feel much less wound up. Please go there, like so, and we'll start again. We're standing perfectly erect. We're taking a deep knee squat for now. This is not the true address position, but we're going to learn how to turn the shoulders. We'll take the shoulders, we'll turn them perfectly level until we can turn them no farther, and stop. If you have a mirror, look in the mirror. Your shoulders should be turned between 60 and 70 degrees. Put all your weight on your right hip bone, and now I want you to take your right hip and turn it back. Just turn it straight back until your shoulders can go no farther. They'll stop at 90. The shoulders are turning 90 degrees to the spine. At this point, I want you to be able to identify whether you do this or not. As we do this one more time, take a deep knee squat, stand perfectly erect in your spine, turn your shoulders perfectly level, and if that doesn't feel like your backswing turn, then you don't do it that way. Then I do it once again, turn your shoulders perfectly level, put all your weight on your right hip bone, and then just simply bend straight over. That's where you should be at the top of the golf swing. The left shoulder should appear to be underneath your chin. Your body should have turned so that the shoulders are turned 90 degrees to the target line. That is the top of your backswing as far as the pivot is concerned. If this is your normal look, if your left shoulder doesn't get all the way under your chin, if it's always falling shy of getting there, then that means that you are dropping the left shoulder. And you do not want to intentionally drop the left shoulder. You want to feel, even when you're bent over, that the left shoulder just moves to the right. It'll drop on its own simply because you're bent over. But if you're intentionally dropping it or subconsciously dropping it excessively, your body's going to tilt and your weight will never shift. Now, the weight shift is the result of two things. First, it is mandatory that the upper half of the left side of your body in here move in this direction or to the right as the swing is developing. As the club is pulling away, your arms are swinging the actual shaft back as this half of your body up in here feels as if it's moving into this half of your body. It is simply moving to the right. Now, if this half here is not moving, then it will remain stationary. And when it remains stationary, there's no possible way to get enough body weight over on this leg to complete the backswing. Thus, at the top of the backswing, you will never have a complete shoulder turn. And we want between 80 and 90 degrees for most golf shots. The second reason for a weight shift is proper hip action. The feeling in the hips is the feeling initially of this hip, the left hip, sliding to the right, feeling like it's meshing into the right hip, and when you feel the weight coming off of this hip completely and onto this hip almost completely, at least 90%, then once you felt the shift, then this hip turns back. The right leg is the anchor, which allows you the feeling of turning from here up right against the lower body. So you're shifting initially. When I say the word shift, if you've ever heard the term weight shift, shift does not mean turn. There is a rotation of the body in golf, but it is not so initial that it looks like that. Initially, there's this feeling of a slide, a slight slide in the left hip into the right hip, a slide. You'll feel like your spine is moving a wee bit to the right. The weight gets loaded over here, and then you turn. But if you're trying to turn, just to initiate your swing with turn, you'll play golf with your weight over on your left leg. And if you do so, you will never hit the golf ball as well as if you play from this leg. So, in order to verify whether or not your hips and shoulders are working properly, I would advise that you now put a mirror behind your television, and upon your mirror place two pieces of tape. Once you've addressed your imaginary golf ball with your arms hanging freely, put one piece of tape directly on this part of your left shoulder, right on the outside edge. Put another piece of tape right at your right hip pocket. And then I would like for you to swing your arms back. These pieces of tape, which are on your mirror now, are going to indicate to you whether or not you're pivoting properly. Swing your arms and hands back so your hands are just above waist high, and check those two pieces of tape. The first piece of tape on your left shoulder should show you that this shoulder has moved 5 to 6 inches on this side of the piece of tape. If it does not appear to have moved, if it just stayed there, then you're not turning your body at all. Then you're just dropping the left side of your body, as most golfers do. So the left half of this body here is moving to the right. The upper half is shifting into this leg. This is stationary, it's motionless, and it just feels like it's catching all of the body weight. I'm being held by this leg. Once you feel the weight into this leg, you've shifted against it, then you can really turn the right hip back. And at the top of the golf swing, this hip should still be in its original position with regard to the mirror. It has not moved outside the piece of tape, and it has not turned on this side of the piece of tape. If you could do nothing else but simply learn to get this half of your body moving initially to the right rather than dropping it, and get this leg to remain stationary early in the swing until you feel weight solid on this leg, I'm talking about all of your body weight almost, then you can pivot your body. Then you can play your best golf, regardless of what you do with your hands or anything else. Finally, we will look at the knees. As I mentioned before, you're turning the upper half of your body against your right leg and knee. You will feel a distinct pressure from here to here, up your thigh area. From the right knee to the thigh, you should have an increasing amount of tension as your backswing unfolds. Your right knee can remain perfectly fixed in space, no movement at all, or you can feel a slight straightening of the knee in the later part of the backswing pivot. You will never see this part of your right leg moving in this direction here. You will never see the right hip moving to the left. If you see that, then your right leg is locking, and you are far from playing your very best golf. From right ankle up to right hip, this whole leg unit does not move left, it does not move right, it is stationary, but the knee itself can straighten slightly. You should check this daily to make sure you're operating this part of your body properly. I'm going to show you the various directions that your left knee can move in, and I'd like for you to identify where yours is moving now. The left knee will take one of three paths. Either your left knee is probably moving left, as mine is here, and that would mean it's following your toe line. It would give the appearance that the weight of your body is over your left toe. Or your left knee is moving ideally in the direction of the ball. If it is moving toward the golf ball, then you'll show that some of your body weight is into the left instep. It is as if you've driven a stake right through the left inside ball, 5% of your weight over here, 95 here. You'll just feel a little bit in the actual foot, but 5% of your body weight. This will vary from golfer to golfer. Greg Norman would have over 90% of his weight on his right leg, and I strongly advocate that most of you try to get at least 85% of your weight on this leg, if not over 90. I prefer as much as you can get. Now, the final look and the most common is this look. This look is the left knee and hip simply collapsing, simply dropping. You can easily tell if the left knee has dropped excessively because your hips will no longer feel nor look level. If this is your look, then you again have never completed your body turn. You will always appear to play golf over your left leg. So it is the pivot of this hip shifting to the right, this hip shifting to the right, this half of the upper body moving to the right, that will allow this knee to move properly. If you'll just relax the left knee and let this hip pull on it, it will know where to go. You will need to eliminate excessive knee motion if you currently have excessive knee motion, and the only way to test it is to simply look at it. By the time your hands and arms are waist high, your left knee has done so very little. Watch its operation. Address position, waist high. The left knee is barely broken. It's not into a deep knee flex there. There's just a slight, subtle move. Now, the left foot has a very strong play on the left knee. If you turn the left foot excessively out to the left knee will operate differently than if you have your left foot perpendicular to the target line. I would recommend that after you've addressed your golf ball, that the last thing you do is just turn your left foot out just a wee bit between 4 and 8 degrees to the left. And that will give you a very good placement of the left foot so that the left knee will move toward the ball if you work into the left instep. So to operate the left knee, all you have to know is this, is that if this left hip is operating properly, if it's sliding into the right hip, and the left knee is relaxed enough to just very gradually fall toward the ball, then you're operating it properly. And you can sense if you are through your left instep. You should feel like you're digging into the left inside ball as I appear here. Let's take a very brief look at the action of the arms. From a feel standpoint, the arms were designed for swinging. They should feel free. They should feel relaxed. And as you swing the arms, you are also pivoting your body. I'd like to begin with you with one simple little drill. So if you will bend from the hip joint and get in as good a posture as you can with your rear end protruding, and then take your knee flex, let your left arm dangle like a rope or a wet noodle. And I'd like for you just to let it swing from its shoulder socket back and forth, back and forth. And as it swings, let it swing on its own momentum. As it swings back and forth, I'd like for you to put your feet very close together. And as it's moving back, I'd like for you to put weight on your right hip bone and through on your left hip bone. Very subtly, back and forth, right to left hip bone. There. Now, I want you to feel the difference between just swinging your left arm and swinging your left arm with pivot, with body. Your left arm at the address position is connected to the side of your body here. I would like for you now, with your feet very close together, swing your left arm back with the upper half of your left side connected to it. The left arm and the upper left side of the body will feel as if they're one unit working together. You'll still feel the freedom of the arm swing. It will not feel stiff like this looks. So I'm going to put the feet close together, if you'll join me, and swing the left arm freely back right across the chest to the top of the swing. When I say across the chest, what I'm trying to indicate is that the left arm swings across your shoulder line. It appears to be right across your shoulder line. This is across the neckline, this is across your head, this is across your stomach line, this is the lower chest, and this is the shoulder line. And that's the ideal position for the left arm at the top of a golf swing. Now, if you will add this feeling of pivoting, feel the shift we talked about earlier, the shift of the hips to the right into this right leg, the left shoulder moving into here, and then complete your swing. And at the top of the swing, feel a very closeness, a tightness between the left arm and the body. They should feel terribly connected. If they feel disconnected, you would have a difficult time knowing when to start the downswing. When the body moves coming down, it will direct the left arm. It will initiate the arm swing down. But if there is not a connection between the body and the left arm, there is no possible way to know as to when to start the downswing. I think the easiest way to incorporate the entire feeling of the body motion and the arm swing is to grip your left forearm with your right hand. Bend over with your rear end out and up, your spine straight. Now relax your knees. Now put your feet close together. I keep telling you to do this so that your weight shift is easier to make. It's certainly easier to shift your weight from this position than it would be from this wide stance position. For now, let's learn a weight shift with close feet. Take your right hand and grip your left forearm. Your right palm is gripping your watch, if you will. Now, swing back, left arm right across your shoulder line, put all of your weight on your right hip bone, and turn until you're in a 90-degree turn. Your shoulders are exactly at 90 degrees to the target line, and your hips at 45. I'd like to now summarize the action of the body and the left arm. Bending over in your best address position, yet with your feet relatively close, closer than they would be in the normal golf swing. I would like for you just to simply take your left arm and lay it right across your shoulder line. As you're swinging back, I want your left hip to turn right into your right hip with a very quiet left knee. By the time your left hand is hip high, the weight is clearly resting on your right hip bone and heel. Your left shoulder is moving to the right. It continues to move to the right, to the right, to the right until your whole left side of the body is stretched from here up. Your left arm is stretched. Your right arm is simply folded down almost between 80 and 90 degrees to the left arm. Feel your weight on your right hip bone and stop the turn when you feel completely stretched in this side of your body here and right against your right thigh and knee. Hold the position, learn it, feel it. Notice a definite gap between your knees. Learn to stretch your body. Golf is a game of stretching. Next, we're going to look at the action of the hands. We're going to talk about what is the proper left wrist action, what is the proper swing plane on which to swing your golf club. We're now going to look at the action of the hands. It is the left hand and wrist, which is the master hand. The left hand controls the club face and is highly instrumental in taking the shaft up the proper plane. Your golf club has three major parts, which consist of, first, the club head, which contains, secondly, the club face, and finally, we have a shaft. What we're now about to discuss is the actual plane of the golf swing. Your shaft is resting on an imaginary inclined plane. A plane is merely a flat surface, and your shaft is resting upon it. Your shaft is ideally to climb the plane that it's on initially at address. If it is to do so, you will have to understand certain geometric relationships. The basic geometry of the plane can best be understood through this basic, simplified procedure. I have placed the club shaft on a vertical plane, a plane on which we do not play the game. The shaft is at 90 degrees to the target line, the club face placed directly behind the golf ball. I'm going to orbit the entire club head directly over the target line, and at impact I'm going to return the club to its initial position. With one exception, the handle of the club will be forward of the club head at impact, but the shaft itself will be on its original plane. I will now orbit the club head on a vertical plane. The head of the club is orbiting up, 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 and it's pointing literally at the target line. The head points at the line way out to my right until the shaft is briefly parallel to the straight target line. At that moment in time, I will direct the handle of the golf club at the straight target line, which I'm doing now. Pointing, pointing, pointing at the line, literally pointing the handle at the line until the shaft is parallel to the line at the top. Coming down this original plane, the handle is pointing at the straight target line. Now the handle is pointing at the ball on the target line briefly until the handle points at the line out to my left. Briefly, the shaft once again hits a parallel position before the club head begins to point at the line until finally the club head is on the line. This would take place at impact. At impact, the club head's on the line, the handle of the club is forward of the club head, and the shaft is on its original plane. Then the club head points at the line, literally, until the shaft is parallel, and finally the other end, or the handle end of the shaft, points at the line until we complete the swing. This is the way we'd play golf on a vertical plane. We play golf on a slant. It is centrifugal force which orbits the club head, and by definition, the word centrifugal means circular motion. I will now make the club head orbit in a circular motion on a flat incline. The shaft is on an incline at address, and now the head of the club comes up, 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 and it's pointing at the target line. Up, 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 and it continues to point at the line until the shaft is briefly parallel. This would take place just below hip high. At that point in time, the handle is directed at the line, pointing, pointing, pointing at the line. Way out to my right, it's pointing at the line. You might complete your swing by pointing the handle at the line, or if you are so very supple, go to a position where the shaft is parallel. As we swing down, the handle of the club is directed directly at the line, then ultimately at the ball, as it is now, and then the handle points at the target line out in front of the ball until the shaft is briefly parallel just below hip high. Then the head is pointing at the line as it's moving from inside the line. It will ultimately touch the line. This will take place at impact. At that moment in time, the club head will not move along the line. It will actually cross the line from inside out. It is crossing the target line. Only for a moment, then it will move back inside the line as it points at the line, literally, until the shaft is briefly parallel, just below hip high. Then the handle of the club is pointing at the line until we complete the swing. The handle is pointing at the line way down the fairway now until the shaft is parallel, and then the club head, if you wish, is pointing back at the straight line. I hope you have a clear understanding of the swing plane, where the shaft goes. It's fairly simple to follow. Doing it is a different matter. Next, I'd like to take a look at the left wrist with you. Make sure that you understand that the left wrist is controlling the club face. It also plays a large role in keeping the shaft on plane. The left wrist, when you grip the club, is vertical to the ground. This is horizontal. This is vertical. I'm going to now take the left wrist, which is vertical to the ground, and drop it down. I'm going to rotate the left wrist slightly, and I want you to notice that it remains vertical, 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 vertical to the ground. This is a vertical wrist. This is a diagonal wrist. This is a diagonal wrist. If you rotate your wrist slightly and keep it vertical, then you're controlling the club face perfectly. The toe of the club would be pointing straight up into the air in this position in the golf swing. If you are fanning the face past its vertical position, your ball should be traveling approximately 18 yards on all shots, and it's going high and to the right. Closing the club face will give you a different effect. You can hit solid shots with a closed club face. It'd be more difficult to control than would be a square club face. This face is square. Once you're just below hip high, your left wrist, which is flat and vertical to the ground, is going to rotate more. I'm going to rotate it enough to where it's turned right against the slant. There it is. Now the left wrist is resting upon the inclined plane. As you've rotated it, you are simultaneously cocking the wrist, like so. I'll show it to you in two pieces and then in one piece. This is the left wrist rotating vertical, vertical, vertical to the ground, just below hip high. This is the two-piece move. The wrist rotates more right against the inclined plane as it cocks. There. This is the way it looks in real life. It looks like all one move. When done properly, the club face itself will look like that. From a different angle, the club face should look this way after we've cocked the wrist. The left wrist is vertical to the ground. I'm now going to turn and cock the wrist. The handle of my club is momentarily pointing at the golf ball. Now the handle of the club's pointing at the target line behind the ball. But there's your club face position. After you've completed the operation of the left wrist cock, turning and cocking, again, turning and cocking all at once, it is one motion on a slant, the face would then look as if it's resting flat against the inclined plane. If your face is against the plane and the handle of the club is pointing at the target line, there's only one way to miss, and that's to be blindfolded. So we have talked about the left forearm and wrist and made very little mention of the right arm and wrist. The right arm can have a key function in your golf swing. If you are right-handed and you find it difficult to find the proper swing plane by simply trying to rotate your left wrist and cocking it, sometimes it is easier to find the proper plane by simply taking the right forearm and guiding the club back, feeling as if you're pointing the club head directly at the target line until just below hip high. Now when you reach the hip high position, your right forearm will look like this. Your right wrist will be rather flat. It will not have much bend. But just about hip high, when the left wrist begins to cock against the plane, the right wrist will simply bend back. And the way to monitor the right wrist is through the right forefinger. When the left wrist is cocking, you should sense the weight of the club head beginning to rest right against the right forefinger knuckle, like so. In order to differentiate the difference between a bent and a cocked wrist, simply pull your hands in front of your body, place both hands vertical to the ground like this and make a fist out of them. Take your left wrist and just cock it straight up. You'll see wrinkles underneath your thumb of your left hand. When you cock the flat left wrist straight up, it will appear to your eyes slightly cupped. What I'm trying to say is that a flat left wrist, once it's cocked, will look slightly bent, but that is the look. Now take the right wrist and bend it literally back to the right. You will see wrinkles at the back of your hand, like so. Now just lay the left hand on the right hand, and that's what they look like in the golf swing. Right wrist bent, left wrist flat. With the club in the hand, it'll look the same, except you'll feel the club right on that right forefinger. Now one other thing. When you grip that golf club, if that right forefinger is not resting on the top right side of the shaft, if it's under the shaft, you'll never experience this. You must check that V of that right hand, so the V of this hand between this finger and thumb is pointing just to the right of your chin. And if it's too low on the shaft, if that forefinger's under the shaft, then your club will be supported on your thumb once you've cocked the wrist. So the left wrist is cocked, the right wrist is bent. Know the difference, learn the feel. You'll know it's right when you can feel the club resting on that finger after your hip-high position. Now we're going to look at the backswing in a different light. We're going to work with the body, the arms, and the hands all together. And we're going to see if you can learn the basic positions of golf in a way where it's much less complicated for you. Take a darker look at this. We're going to look at the takeaway of the golf swing. We want the arms and the body to work together. We want every part of the body in motion from the very beginning. Let me show you some improper takeaways so you'll have something to compare to. This is an arm takeaway. I've addressed the golf ball, the arms move to the right, the body is motionless. If this is your takeaway, it will be very difficult for you to ever create a weight shift. By the top of the golf swing, you'll look something like this. You'll be between 40 and 60 degrees in your shoulder turn. You want 90. This is a shoulder dominant takeaway. It's just the opposite. When the shoulders take the club away, they turn way too abruptly. It brings the club way inside the plane. It's forcing you to come over the top of the ball. This is a hand takeaway. It'll look very wristy. It will give the appearance of picking the club up. Again, you'll have very little body pivot. You're looking to create a motion where every part of the body is moving together. I've relaxed the arms. They're hanging like noodles. Notice the left arm is touching the body here. This connection is not lost from the address position to the takeaway. I've taken the club head roughly 24 inches back. The club head is inside the target line clearly. It is pointing at the line and inside the line. The left arm and body have moved together. Please notice that the left shoulder has moved considerably to the right, from here right over into here. It goes address to there. This is a dropping of the left shoulder. This is the shoulder dominant golfer working into a reverse pivot. He's working his shoulder. Note the difference between swinging arms. If the arms are swinging, there is absolutely no reason to overturn the shoulders or to drop the left shoulder. These actions are results of improper shoulder action. Do not think about your shoulders when you play golf. Connect your arms to your upper body here and here. Move your arms and your shoulders will move. This is so easy to learn, but you have to understand it. Watch again. The left arm's connected to the body. I'm swinging the arms. When they move, I keep the body with them. The body moves. And if the arms are moving this way and I let the body move with them, I'm in business. Again, correct looks this way, incorrect looks that way. That's the left shoulder dropping to start the golf swing. And this is the shoulders overturning. Now 70% of you are dropping your left shoulder to start your golf swing. You've told me why. You've told me you dropped the left shoulder to get it under the chin. Aren't the shoulders already under the chin? So let's keep it where it belongs, under the chin, by simply moving it to the right. The arms are swinging and the left shoulder just moves to the right. Now this action of the shoulders is not just a slide. There is some rotation, but I don't want you to feel like you just take yourself and just start turning abruptly. You have to feel enough shift to the right to feel weight on the right leg as you begin to turn. So there is a slight feeling of shift before the action turns. You're always on plane. The hands are directing the club so the club head is pointing at the target line. I'd like for you to focus now from the waist down and see what's happening. As I've taken the club away the first 24 inches, please notice time and time again that there's a transfer in the hips. The weight appears to be 50% here and 50% here, and now you can clearly see that it's moved at least 70 here. I'm feeling a good 80% on my right leg. The weight shift is prompt. For most of my students, and I do mean most, I start them with their feet relatively close together until they learn the weight shift. I turn their left foot out to the left like I'm doing here, and I just pull the left heel slightly in the air to release weight from this leg. Okay, the hips are still level. I've bent their left knee ever so slightly, and I'm pinching their left instep into the ground, loading weight on their right leg. Then I ask them to simply take their arms, relax, and just move them to the right. When they move them, feel like the arms are moving in a straight line. If they feel like they're moving straight, then that will naturally take the club up the plane. Now I'm going to hold a position where the club shaft is just below hip high. The toe of the club is pointing straight up into the air, and notice the weight on the right leg. The left knee has barely broken forward. It is not kicked way in. The left side of the body has not dropped down. The hips still appear level. There's a minimal rotation in the hips, but I have shifted in this direction here. The shoulders are turned approximately 45 degrees. Check your swing plane first. Always look at your club shaft to see if it's on plane. Then just go up and check the right leg, make sure it hasn't moved, it's in its original position, and make sure that this hip pocket has turned. Now let's look at the second half of the backswing. We've taken the club just below hip high. There we are. The left arm right across our body. The left shoulder has clearly moved to the right. Your left shoulder should clearly be inside your left knee, depending on the width of your stance. I advocate that with a driver, your stance should not be wider than 12 inches. With a wedge, probably 6 to 7 inches. I advocate the Payne Stewart type narrow stance. It simplifies the weight shift. There's absolutely no advantage to a wide stance in golf, and that's precisely why Curtis Strange has all the head movement, because in order to get his weight to his right leg from a wide stance, he has to move to the right. So I want you to minimize the upper body movement to the right, but definitely feel like you have moved over this leg. Now, we take the shaft from the hip-high position into a wrist cock. The wrist cock is developed gradually. I take the handle, I point it right at the target line. The left wrist is clearly cocked. How do you verify that? By looking at your left hand. You should find wrinkles at the base of your left thumb, and you should feel the club resting against your right forefinger. Remember, the left wrist is flat and cocked, and the right wrist is bent. So now, ladies and gentlemen, as we cock the left wrist gradually, the handle points at the golf ball, and then the handle points at the target line behind the ball. The shaft should appear from the rear view to be directly over your right shoulder. If you're looking in a mirror to your right, then the shaft is right over that shoulder, and I do mean. Now let's look at the total motion from address right to the top. Address position, you can either have your hands mid-body or the hands slightly ahead of the club head, your choice. The arms swing. When they do, the upper half of your body feels like it shifts a wee bit to the right. The right leg is a stationary post. You're feeling pressure now building up here. The shaft is parallel to the line. There's very little movement. If you isolate it and break it down, it's simply that. It's just a little rotation of your back, a little slide of your upper half of your body with some arms. Your left knee does the slightest amount of bending. Now the shaft from this position is cocked right against the plane with the handle pointing at the ball and then at the target line to the right of the ball, the right wrist bent back, feeling the club against the right forefinger. From there, you just raise your left arm. You don't try to turn excessively. You just take your left arm and lift it right against your body, staying snug to the body as your right hip moves back. And when the right hip's moving back, that will increase your body turn. Once again, from when the wrist is cocked and the right forefinger is feeling the club, the left arm just lifts right against your chest, staying against it, as your right hip just moves straight on back, feeling more and more weight coming into your right heel. You do not want to feel your weight coming back over your left leg, and if you do, that means you're overturning. At the top of the swing, the identifying characteristics are A, that you feel wound up in your mid-body and in your back area. You're a spring ready to unload. The second stress is against the right knee and thigh here, and then there's a third stress in your left arm. It is extended. If you have difficulty stretching your left arm right against your chest. Take your right arm and simply push out against it. After you've cocked the left wrist, you can take your right arm and just give it a little push. That'll do two things. A, it will assure you that your left arm is stretching, and B, it will pull your upper half of your body more behind the lower half of your body. Now, I want you to look at the left shoulder to left hip relationship and notice what is absolutely crucial to the downswing. It is crucial from the top of the swing that the upper half of your back, that your left shoulder is on the right side of your left hip, as opposed to hanging over your left hip or being on the left side of your left hip. You must create the look of the upper half of the body being behind the lower half. I don't care about anything else. If I can get a student not to move this leg and to get his upper half on this side of his right leg, I don't even care what plane he's on, because I can teach him to hit it from that position. But if I can get the upper half of the body behind the lower half with the club on plane, then I've got the sweet spot coming right back to the ball. We're now going to look at the downswing. The downswing is a reaction to the backswing. Often you'll think you've made a decent downswing when you're concentrating on it, and the ball will not fly the way you wanted it to. There's an obvious reason for that. The head of your club is coming from outside the target line. There are only two things you have to do to hit a golf ball. One, keep your hands ahead of the club head. At the moment of impact, your club head is trailing. If your club head is trailing your hands, then the head of the club is moving from inside the target line just prior to impact. If the club head has passed your hands, like so, then I'll assure you your club head has come from the outside. The second thing you have to do to hit a golf ball is to keep the upper half of your body behind the lower half. You cannot hit a golf ball with the upper half of your body, being your shoulders and arms, directly over your hips. They must be trailing. There must be this backward lean at impact. Your spine is tilted, like so. So the two things that we're going to look at most carefully are, how do you keep your hands ahead of the club head at impact, and how do you keep this backward lean in your spine, as opposed to this look at impact? Let's begin with a little history of the game. Do you know where the game originated? The game originated not in Scotland, but in France, approximately 1,000 years ago. There were some people in France who were peasant people, and they worked for the king. Daily they were told to go outside into the fields, and with their bare hands they were to pick wheat. First they'd pick the wheat, and then they'd thresh the wheat. They'd beat the seeds from the wheat, always using one stick. Now, beating wheat was a mundane existence. If you were to beat wheat every day, day in and day out, you would become bored, as did these people. Day after day, the same wheat beating experience. Often, these people would sing. They would sing the national wheat beating anthem. We beat the wheat, we beat the wheat, all day long we beat the wheat. At the end of the day, we do not have much wheat beat, but we are rather beat here in the heat. And they had several tunes in which they used to sing this song. There was this one peasant who was married to the head wheat beater. One day the peasant came home and told the head wheat beater she was no longer going to beat the wheat. He became angry. He took her stick, he pulled it back, he set it, and then he whomped her. When he whomped her, her stick broke. Now, technology had not gone far 1,000 years ago in France. So he told her to fix the stick, and she knew not how, so she simply tied it together. The next day she went out among the other peasant people. They were already beating wheat, singing, beat the wheat, all day long we beat the wheat. At the end of the day, we don't have much wheat beat, but we're rather beat here in the heat. She had two sticks. She went out holding the short end first and began to beat some wheat. But she was not getting much wheat beat, as she was rather beat. She then took the long end first, pulled the short end back, and then all of a sudden, with very little effort, she could beat lots of wheat, and at the end of the day, she was not nearly as beat there in the heat. That evening, she walked home with her best friend, who had but one stick. They were hitting little pine cones along the trail. Her friend had one stick. She took it to the top and threw, as she'd hit pine cone time and time again. Ah, but Mrs. Flail, she had 2 sticks. She took her flail to the top and threw, and she won 3 tournaments the first week. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a flail. It is right here. It is your left wrist. We are going to create a flail which is simply 2 sticks that are out of line with one another. They're out of line on an inclined plane. They don't want to be out of line. Anytime you cock your left wrist and get the club shaft out of line, it doesn't want to be out of line. How do I know that? Well, I've watched thousands of golfers. They take their shaft out of line with their left arm, they create a flail, and then as they swing down, they throw it right back to 1 stick. A flail is 2 sticks. And if you want power, and if you want a downswing that'll work, if you want to hit the ball solidly, then you must have the club moving this way. And this way is down plane. This is from the outside of the golf ball. And when you come from the outside, it's because your left wrist uncocks. It uncocks prematurely and throws the club back to 1 stick. And when you play golf with 1 stick, you have very little power. The power is in the flail. If you want to play good golf, all you have to do is this. Create a flail on a slant and keep the flail on the slant. Don't let it get back to 1 stick. Because all you have to do to hit a ball solidly, time and time again, is to move the club head from the inside of the ball instead of from the outside. And it comes from the outside when you uncock the wrist early, and there are several reasons for that. You want to keep the wrist cocked. Ideally, it just stays cocked almost to the bottom of the golf swing. What uncocks the wrist is centrifugal force. Centrifugal force, by definition, is circular motion. I'm going to cock my wrist right now, and I'm going to pull my left hand from the top of the swing straight at the golf ball. Straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line. As long as my left hand is moving in a straight line down the inclined plane, this wrist will stay cocked. I'll keep my flail. But when the hands don't move straight at the ball, for instance, this golfer here, he's not going to move his hands straight at the ball from the top of his swing. If he moves these hands straight at the ball, he's going to suffer a concussion. So he's going to move his hands this way. His hands will move out and away from his body. His left wrist will uncock. He'll be back to 1 stick. Now the left arm and shaft are back in line. What does he do next? Well, like any flail, he'll go back to 2 sticks, but prematurely. Now he has 2 sticks, but the shaft is getting ahead of the hands. Then he gets to impact. He looks like that. And what happens next? Well, what else? The chicken wing. There. And there is the high handicapper. Fred says to Ethel, "Ethel, you're not following through." And Ethel says, "Fred, I can't follow through." Nor can Fred, because of the chicken wing. It's that. And the good player, he has his shaft out of line with the left arm. He's like that. And then his follow-through looks like that. It's a snap release, only because the club head is lagging. It's trailing his hands. His wrist has remained cocked. So from the very top of the swing, we must get our hands in a position to move straight at the ball and then move them straight at the ball. So what separates the low from the high handicapper? Well, it's as simple as this. The low handicapper has his club shaft trailing. His club head is lagging the hands. It's back here. He uncocks the wrist down here. As long as your hands move straight at that golf ball, then you can't cast the club out. Centrifugal force throws the club head out when the hands are moving in a curve. As long as they move straight, centrifugal force cannot exist. So if you want to know your handicap, it's this. If you're a 40 handicap, you uncock here. If you're a 30 handicapper, you uncock here. If you're a 20 handicapper, you uncock right there. If you're a 10 handicapper, you uncock there. And if you're a scratch player, you don't uncock till there, till right before the ball. So let's learn to uncock later. And the key to doing this is to move your hands straight at the ball, down and out. But the hands themselves are subservient to this shoulder. See, the shaft is taken over the turned right shoulder, right over the turned right shoulder. And whatever direction the right shoulder moves in, the hands will follow. If the right shoulder moves this way, out and over the ball, then the hands will move in a curve toward the ball, and you'll uncock prematurely. If you can't feel the weight of this club head back there, then you have casted the club, and it's telling you that your right shoulder is moving over here, this way, instead of down and out. Why does it want to move over here so much? Why doesn't it want to move down and out? Because of the position you're in. The backswing is the key to creating a good downswing move. It is the 90-degree shoulder turn with the weight on this hip bone, upper half of the body behind or to the right of the lower body, that makes this an easy move. If you don't hit a good top position, there's a strong possibility that your right shoulder is going to want to work this way. But if you are in a full pivot with your right leg supporting your body, then all you have to do is break this hip and this knee forward. And when they break, the right shoulder wants to move toward the ball. Now let's begin with what the left wrist is doing coming down. We've talked about the left hand pulling the golf club. It's pulling the golf club straight at the ball. The right hand and arm completely passive. The right arm is simply coming to the body. You're trying to let the right elbow come to your right hip pocket. The left hand has pulled straight at the ball, and at the bottom of the swing, just before impact, the left hand can no longer move straight. At that point, it has to move in a curve, in a circular motion. When that begins to happen, the left wrist will automatically uncock. That's when the wrist does uncock, when the hands are moving in a curve. And now we're going to begin a rotational feeling in our left wrist and forearm. I'm starting to rotate, 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 impact. The club face at the moment of impact is slightly open. Your hands are clearly forward. The ball will stick on the club face for 3/4 of an inch, 5/10 thousandths of a second. As the face continues to close, it's open to the target line at impact as it is closing, 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 closing. The left wrist would have gone from turned and cocked against the plane as it stays in that condition to the last moment. When the hand moves in a curve at the bottom, it will uncock automatically. It will go to a vertical position to the ground. You rotate it. It's vertical, 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 vertical to the ground. If you rotate it too much, it will not be vertical. It would look like that. The whole forearm and wrist should feel vertical to the ground. You don't have time to monitor whether it's vertical to the ground. You have to learn this away from the golf ball. You have to do this over and over until you know what you're feeling. And you're not slapping at the ball. You're not applying right hand at impact. This is a left-handed action. The right hand is so passive. At the moment of impact, the right wrist is still bent. And if the right wrist is still bent, you have not used it. If the right wrist is flattened, then the left wrist is bent, and that means you've thrown the club ahead of your hands. If you knew nothing about golf, if you only knew that your right wrist had to be bent at impact, you'd hit every ball solid, as long as your head was relatively motionless throughout the swing. It's the golfer who's using right arm from the top. It's the golfer who's coming over the top who has the problems. If you get a backswing, which will allow your upper half of your body to be feeling as if it's over your right leg, and then you can get your lower body to move first, then you can keep your right arm out of the shot. It's when the upper body moves ahead of the lower body that the right arm wants to straighten. And when the right arm is straightening, the right wrist flattens out, and there goes your golf club, dead to the outside, and the ball is on the ground. If you're a good player, a low handicapper, when you come over the top, you'll just pull the ball dead left. If you're a high handicapper, you'll either pull it dead left or you'll hit a cut slice or else you'll hit the ball on the ground. All bad shots are for the same reason. The club head is thrown to the outside. Please keep in mind that at impact, the only two things that are imperative to hitting your best golf shot are A, that your hands are ahead of the club head, and B, that your upper body is trailing your lower body. It's a backward lean, shoulders behind the hips. Notice that my left shoulder, when I get to the ball, is still behind the left hip. It is not moved ahead. It is definitely the feeling of hitting to right field. And the longer the golf club, the more out you'll feel like you're swinging. Never give up trying to swing out. Try to hit the inside of the ball. That's the part closest to you. When I'm teaching golf, I'll align my student's golf club behind his golf ball. I'll put a ball just to the side of his ball, and then tee it up. And I'll leave only enough room for him to come this way. And if he comes even a little bit from the outside, he'll hit the first ball first. You must look at the inside of the ball. That's the part closest to you. And that's the way you're swinging this golf club, from the inside out. Learn that feeling. The lower body must lead. The right knee simply moves into the left knee. The right knee is bending and the left knee is straightening slightly. The right hip is going with it. If you feel like you're playing golf flat-footed and you're not getting any movement in this hip and this knee, then just practice this over and over. Just pitch a ball underhanded as your right knee is releasing and you're coming up off the right instep. If you can swing out at a golf ball, you can play top-level golf. If you cannot, then you cannot. So, what is the secret of the game? The secret of golf is to make the club head lag. The club head can only lag your hands when it's moving out. Anytime the club head gets to the outside, you're much less prone to keep the head behind the hands. Learn to swing out at all costs. Feel like you're hitting the right field. And if you know you're swinging out, you're convinced that your right shoulder is moving down and out, and that your shaft is moving down and out, and the ball is going to the right, then all you have to do is manipulate the club face, which is controlled by the left wrist. So if you are able to hit the ball solidly and it goes to the right, then just learn to close your club face during impact by simply taking the handle of the club, pointing it at the ball on the right side of your body, and flipping the club end for end and pointing the handle here. That's the release. Pointing the handle at the ball just before impact, pointing the handle at the ball. I'm doing this with a rotation of the left wrist and forearm, and then a recocking of the left wrist. The completion of the release is a recocking, the handle pointing back at the line. This clearly is a left arm action. The left arm is rotating and folding back into the body. I would practice this hundreds of times, watching the club blur from inside out and then around. It is futile to work on this in this manner. This is the club coming from the outside. As you work on this, use your lower body. Let your weight shift into the left leg. Let your right knee actively lead your left arm through. We must understand that the club head can only come from the inside when the lower body is leading the upper body. In swinging from the inside, you'll always feel like your lower body leads. The right knee and hip feel like they're moving directly down the target line. At first, it's a lateral motion. Weight comes to this left hip bone, considerable weight. When you feel the ball, you should feel weight here and on your left heel. You should feel like the hands are forward of the golf ball. As the left arm is rotating, the left leg itself is straightening. Please notice the left knee during impact, after impact, follow through, finish. Finally, the left leg is completely straight. If the left leg is not straightening, you'll be sliding excessively. There is a rotational motion just during and after impact. And all you need to know about that rotational hip motion is that the left leg itself is raising. It is straightening. And that will turn your hips automatically. So there's not a conscious effort to spin the hips. The right knee moves laterally into the left knee. It's chasing the left knee. Then the left knee simply straightens. And when it does, the hips will clear. The final position that we're looking at is that of the finish. You've swung from inside out. Your left arm has rotated. The weight is now coming over here. And the finish is this. The left leg straightening, the right knee remaining bent, and at the finish of the swing, the right knee is now touching the left knee. Your right hip pocket is facing the target, your belly button the target, your chin the target. You could draw a straight line from your nose to your left foot. You've come out of the golf shot. You were bent over. You're still bent over. You're still bent over, but now you're looking down the fairway. As the left wrist recocks, you're now letting the club head pull you up. As this leg is straightening, everything goes. And you finish with over 95% of your weight moving to the left leg, or at least it'll feel that way. You'll be on the point of your right toe, and on the heel of the left leg. How do we incorporate the overall feeling of swinging down and out with the lower body leading? How do we learn this? Through one basic drill. If you will, take a golf club and grip it in your left hand. Place the club in front of you like this, with your right hand gripping the club underneath the club, right palm facing out, like so. Put the feet close together, lift your left heel, bend your left knee, load all your weight on your right leg. Straighten your left arm. Lay your left arm across your shoulder line and turn your shoulders 90 degrees to the target line, feeling as if you've turned your shoulders right over your right leg, upper body behind lower. Now, what you'll do is you'll plant your right heel to start. Your right knee will kick forward. When it does, pull the handle of the club aggressively, leaving the club head back. You'll feel the left wrist remaining cocked. Feel the club resting right against this finger here. Pull it down and out. When you get to the bottom, feel like you throw the club head behind you, like that. When I say behind you, feel like you throw the club back on the slant, this way, on the incline. Do not throw your club head at the golf ball. Throw your club head behind you. First, you pull the handle down and out toward the ball, then you flip the club. When you flip the golf club, your left elbow is rotating and folding. Watch the elbow. Top, left arm pulling, the body is leading, the left arm is against the body, the lower body's broken in, the weight's coming here, and throw the club behind you. When you're on the golf course and you want to get this feeling, address the ball, move back 1 inch or 2, swing, and try to create a swishing sound in front of the ball. The louder and the later the swish, the farther the ball will go. If you hear the swish behind the ball, then you've either come from the wrong position at the top, or else you've just casted the club. You must feel like the left arm is moving this way, against the body, down and out. And if the arms escape and get out this way, you will get a feeling of throwing the club to the outside. I wish that every golfer had some way to verify whether or not he's swinging from the outside, other than the ball. See, if you hit a shank, your club head's from the outside. If you hit a duck hook and the ball starts left and then hooks, you're coming from the outside. If you hit a slice, you're coming from the outside. All bad shots were coming from the outside. Why are we doing this? Well, typically because our upper body is leading. But more importantly than that, even if your lower body is leading, are you coming from a position where your right shoulder is moving down and out? Or are you just coming from a bad position, working right over the top? I think that if you can verify the feeling of the club lagging, if you can understand that all you have to feel is a heavy weight trailing on this finger, the right wrist staying bent, feel the club back on that finger. Learn to feel a weight on the end of the string. Do this little drill over and over, feeling that weight back there, and then flip that weight. Take the shaft time and time again. Hold it like this. Cock the wrist. Pull it down and flip it. And the more times you do that, and the more times you can see the club head moving this way, down and out, as opposed to out and around, the better you'll play. That is the secret of the game, to make the club head lag, to feel it behind your hands. And there's no one simple way to learn that. I wish there was. You have to improve your backswing first. In my teaching, 85% of my day is just teaching posture, grip, alignment, and backswing. The remainder of that day is teaching someone how to move to the finish with their lower body leading, learning the feeling of swinging out. But we don't begin to learn that feeling until they improve the component parts going back. If you can learn the simple techniques of the backswing that we discussed, work on them, practice them, continue to monitor your hands, I know you can play your best golf. But it is the backswing which is the key. This down part is very easy coming from a good position. When I'm playing my best golf, I have zero thought coming down rather than right knee breaking forward and left hand pulling. And I mean pull. No other thoughts. I don't want you to get into this intellectual process coming down. Get to the top, Let your right knee break from the top, pull the club down and out. When you pull it, pull down and out. Don't throw the club. As you get to the ball, throw the club in the woods behind you, smile and enjoy. If you're not beating your friends, get a new foursome. Continue to work on your mechanics. Well, I certainly appreciate your time, and I will tell you this. Of all the years that I've spent looking and studying high handicappers, mid handicappers, and scratch players, I've only learned two things. I've learned that the golfer has to hit the golf ball with his hands ahead of the club head. I've learned that the golfer has to hit the golf ball with his upper body trailing the lower body. And from that, I've learned that the easiest way to hit a golf ball with the hands ahead of the club head and the upper body trailing, or this upper part of the spine leaning behind the lower part of the spine, is to create a good backswing. I have a priority list. There are 5 priorities in the following order in which I recommend you memorize. Number 1 priority, ahead of all else, is to create a free and rhythmical arm swing. A swinging motion where the arms feel like they're pacing themselves in a way that the backswing feels like the downswing. There's nothing sudden, there's nothing jerky. The arms are free, like they're swinging out of the shoulder sockets. That is number 1 on my list. 2, to create a wrist cock on plane. When we reach the hip-high region, learning to train the left wrist to cock on the slant. So important. I cannot tell you what that does to the rest of the golf swing. If you can cock it on plane, you have very few problems. 3, feeling your weight solidly on your right hip bone as you're cocking the wrist. Feeling like your upper half of your body is over that right leg instead of hanging over your left leg. All combined, there is this feeling of a shift to the right into this leg. And it must be understood that this half of the body feels like it's moving to the right for most players. Loading weight into the right leg. 4, leading the downswing with the lower body. Simply feeling like you're pitching a ball underhanded with your right knee breaking first. When you reach the top of your golf swing with the hands, feel like your right knee is not only breaking first, feel like it's aggressively moving forward and continues to move. It never slows down until after the golf shot. And 5, being able to sense the weight of the club head behind the hands, which is more of a result of everything else, but truly this is the secret. Understanding the difference between good and bad. Good is having the club head moving from behind the hands, moving down and out. Bad from the outside, casting, uncocking prematurely. If you just could get 3 out of 5, you'd play better. If you get all 5, you'll find that golf is a lot of fun. I have witnessed some of the most miraculous turnarounds in golf in the last few years. I've taught many a 35 handicapper who have taken it to 18. I've taught 20s who have gone to 10. I once taught a 16 who went to 2. The way that these people have improved from age 75 on down to age 9 is simple. They all tell me that they're now on plane. They all tell me that they feel more behind the ball with their upper body. Most everybody I've ever taught has had a backswing flaw. And I'm always looking at the same procedures over and over and over and over. And the bottom line is this. I'm not seeing many people getting behind the ball with their upper body. I'm seeing them in front of that golf ball. That's natural. And that's wrong. If it feels good, don't trust it, because it probably isn't right. And remember this, till the day that you quit playing the hardest game in the world, the ball does not go into the lake because it is mad at me. It goes into the lake because it has to. Thank you.